In this video, I'm going to talk about the extra credit assignment. So the extra credit assignment is basically for one extra credit assessment point, you will draw one square of this portrait. So we'll be doing as many of these as we can throughout the semester. So when we finish one, we'll move on to the next one. This is a portrait of Frederick Douglass, and we've got a couple squares on here already that have been completed by various individuals throughout the day. So for each square they finish, they get one extra credit point. So if you're interested in extra credit, come to me, and I will give you a square and a blank sheet, or I will give you a sheet that already has the square glued to it and it's got the code written on it. So each square has a code on it, and the code is important to know because that code tells you where to put it on this grid that we've already got. So for this square, I'm going to draw this one for you. I'm going to show you how to do this. This one's kind of challenging because it looks like it's maybe a bit of hair, and hair is kind of tough. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to kind of outline where I see those values changing. So I'll zoom in and show you what I'm looking at. So like on this, through here I've got, it's light on the bottom and then it's dark through here. It kind of reminds me of like a shark fin or like a dolphin or something. And it's dark through there. This might be an eyebrow, but it doesn't matter what it is. And if I need to, I can break this square up into 4 smaller squares, and then if I need to, I can do the same thing here so that my proportions are correct. So that, because I'm gonna go out on a limb and guess that whatever this thing is here, whatever shape, whatever object or facial feature that is, it's gonna extend to the next box over. So I'm not gonna do both of these, so I want to make sure that mine is gonna line up with whoever does this one and whoever does this one. So that fin comes like that and kind of leaves, and it's kind of nice because I can just draw beyond. It doesn't matter what I draw over here because I'm going to cut this out anyways. So now that I have that, I'm going to use an ebony pencil for this. And to do hair, I'm going to use a technique called scumbling, which is where I'm just doing circles. So I'm going to erase, this is pretty light over here, so I'm going to erase that line, and I'm going to erase that line too. Now that I have my shape drawn, it's not perfectly white down there, so I'm going to use my light touch and put just a little bit of value down there. And then I'm going to put a base value. So I'm not worried about texture yet. There is a lot of texture in this square, but I'm not going to worry about that yet. I'm going to put I'm going to start doing that scumbling technique where I'm making circles. And I'm not pressing too hard. And then it's a little bit lighter gray. Up above that. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to I'm going to work left to right. Let's see how close I can zoom in. And I'm going to look at these little things right here where it's a little bit darker and there's no defined edge. It's just kind of darker and then it kind of blends out, then it blends dark, then it blends light, then it blends dark. And I'm just going to work my way through. I've got some lighter, some light gray. I was going to call them white, but they're not really white. They're just really light gray compared to the values around it. So I'm going to do that on this. So I'm just going to kind of scumble the shapes of these darker shadow areas that I see, and I'm going to kind of also blend it into the middle gray that I have in the background there, and it does something like that. And like I said, it looks like hair, so if it is hair, and even if it's not hair, it's still behaving like hair. It looks like hair. So with hair and with textures like this that aren't really defined, like you don't have a real hard edge, stuff like this doesn't have to be perfectly accurate. It doesn't have to look exactly like the picture. If it doesn't look exactly like the picture, I mean, it's like if you get a new haircut, even if you have an old haircut, you take 3 pictures right in a row of somebody, their hair is going to be different in all 3 pictures. So if I draw this and it looks like some of the hairs are out of place, it really doesn't matter. But you see, just by kind of scumbling, kind of scribbling that texture in there, trying to draw those, paying attention to those dark shapes, and then a little bit of those light shapes. Can add that variation. Not bad. And now I'm going to do the same thing up here. So there is some of that. There are some darker values that kind of reminds me of a tornado. Look at that kind of does. This lighter area, it's not as, like these darker shapes that I'm putting in they're not as pronounced as these down here. So I'm not gonna blend this. I'm gonna leave this just like it is, but I am gonna take my finger and kind of sweep over this lighter area in here. Gets a little bit darker there. And there's a movement. as I'm doing this, I noticed that all the lines above this, like I'm going to call it the dolphin fin, all the light areas, the darker values that are coming through that lighter area, they all kind of move in this kind of curved direction. So when I blend this in, I'm gonna follow that. And I'm gonna make that a little bit more pronounced. And there you have it. So that's, let's see what it looks like. Not bad. This feels a little too light to me, so maybe I'll just go over it. Yep. Maybe darken this in a little bit. Over here, this feels like it should be just a little bit darker. Yep. And I'm gonna go, so I don't want it to glow on that edge, so I'm gonna darken that in a little bit. There we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out. And actually, before I do that, so the code is B4. So I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to write B4. I don't know if you guys, yeah, we kind of get some light in there, so I can see where my squares here, so that if this falls off, or I can cut it out at my desk, and I know by flipping it around, I know which way is the top and which way is the bottom, because that's also very important. You don't want to glue this sideways on that square, because then for sure stuff isn't going to line up. So this is one of the more challenging squares, and it took me a little bit longer because I was explaining myself as I worked. Some of the squares are solid colors, some of them are like collars and stuff where it's a clean line. But anyways, whatever you get in this square, the challenge is to replicate it here, and then that'll be one extra credit point, and then bring it to me and I'll sign it. I will plug in your points, and then you'll take this, you'll cut it out and glue it to the board. So this is going to be B4, so this one's going right in that little square right there, and it'll be filling in that gap. So doesn't look like it was an eyebrow, looks like it's probably part of his hairline, but it doesn't matter because it is what it is. So yep, each one is extra credit, one extra credit assessment point, and as long as you've got your everything else caught up, you can do as many of those as I have.